I died choking on my own blood. The metallic tang flooding my mouth as the MPs dragged me from that godforsaken interrogation room in Langley. My wrists raw from the cuffs they'd twisted just a little too tight. Betrayed by the man who'd sworn to protect me, my own father, General Harlan Hawk Reynolds, the silver-haired hero of a dozen classified ops, who'd sold me out to cover his tracks in a treasonous arms deal that painted me as the fall guy. And in that final, gasping moment, as the world blurred to black, I heard his voice on the other end of the line. Cold as a Virginia winter. She's collateral.
Boys.
Make it look good. But death isn't the end. It's a reset button smashed by some cosmic joke. I woke up gasping. Not in a pine box, but in my old bridal suite mirror, staring at my 28-year-old face, unscarred, unruined, on the morning of my wedding day, 3 years before the noose tightened. Holy shit. This was my shot. Payback's a bitch.
Dad.
And I'm coming for you. The silk of my robe whispered against my skin as I paced the hotel room in Arlington, Virginia, the Potomac River glittering mockingly outside the floor-to-ceiling windows like it knew the farce I was about to play. It was June 2022, the air thick with that DC humidity that clings like regret, and my reflection, wide-eyed, chestnut hair tousled from a night of phantom screams, stared back as if daring me to believe this wasn't some fever dream cooked up by the painkillers they'd pumped into me during those last sessions. But the date on my phone confirmed it. Wedding day. Jake Harlan, my fiancé, the steady as a rock Air Force pilot with eyes like smoked quartz and a laugh that could defuse a bomb, would be waiting downstairs in his dress blues, oblivious to the storm I'd just crawled out of. In my old life, this day had been the peak before the plummet, a lavish affair bankrolled by Dad's connections, a photo op for the Reynolds family legacy. I'd said, I do, with stars in my eyes, only for the honeymoon to turn into headlines 6 months later when the feds raided our honeymoon suite in Maui, hauling me away in zip ties for espionage. Dad's doing. Of course. He'd framed me for leaking F-35 schematics to a Chinese shell company, using my access as his Pentagon aide to plant the digital breadcrumbs. I took the hit, torture, trial, a suicide watch in a black side cell, while he got a quiet promotion and a teary CNN interview about his tragic loss. Bastard. I sank onto the edge of the king-sized bed, the duvet still rumpled from where Jake had crashed after the rehearsal dinner. His scent, clean soap and jet fuel, lingering on the pillows. My hands trembled as I pulled open the nightstand drawer, fishing out the burner phone I'd hidden there in a past life, back when paranoia was just a hobby. No, that wasn't right. This was now. But the muscle memory kicked in like I'd never left. I powered it on, the screen flickering to life with encrypted texts from Ghosts, my old contact, Lena Voss, the whistleblower journalist who'd tried to warn me too late. In the timeline I'd escaped, she'd gone dark after publishing a redacted exposé that got her car torched in Quantico. But here, she was alive, waiting for my signal. It's me, I typed, fingers flying. The bird flies at dawn. Coordinates attached, dawn meaning the wedding toast. Coordinates, Dad's private server in the basement of his McLean estate, rigged with backdoors I'd memorized during family game nights that were really crash courses in op-ess. A knock rattled the door, soft.
Tentative. Maya?
Babe. You up? The car's here. Jake's voice, warm and rough from sleep, sliced through the haze. I shoved the burner under the mattress, smoothed my robe, and cracked the door with a smile that felt like armor. There he was, all 6'2" of broad-shouldered reliability, his tie already crooked because he could land a super hornet in a sandstorm, but knots were the devil. "Morning, flyboy," I murmured, pulling him in for a kiss that tasted like second chances. He grinned, oblivious, his hands settling on my waist like they belonged there. In my old life, we'd made love that morning, lazy and laughing, before the ceremony turned everything to ash. This time, I held him a beat longer, memorizing the steady thrum of his heart. "What's the rush?" he teased, nuzzling my neck. Afraid I'll bolt. If only he knew. I was bolting. All right, straight into the fire I'd stoke myself. Down in the hotel lobby, the wedding party buzzed like a hive on Red Bull, my bridesmaids in pastel sundresses. Jake's squadron mates cracking wise about how I'd tamed the wild one. Dad held court by the grand piano, his baritone laugh booming as he swapped war stories with a cluster of brass, generals with more stars than sense, all fawning over the man who'd saved the free world from threats they couldn't pronounce. He spotted me descending the escalator, arm in arm with Jake, and his eyes lit up with that predatory gleam, the one that said, "My pawn's in play." "There's my girl," he boomed, striding over to envelop me in a bear hug that smelled of bay rum and bullshit. Up close, he was every inch the icon, salt and pepper crew cut, jaw like carved granite, the distinguished service medal pinned to his lapel like a badge of lies. "You look radiant, Maya. Like your mother on our day."
Mom.
The ghost he invoked like a shield, the one who'd OD'd on pills after he relocated her to a psych ward for asking too many questions about his overseas investments. I'd bought the story, then grief. Isolation. Now, I knew it was the first thread he'd pulled to unravel anyone who got too close. We piled into the stretch limo, a convoy of black Suburbans trailing like funeral procession shadows, heading to the National Cathedral for the vows. Jake squeezed my hand, whispering, "You okay? You seem wired." I forced a laugh, light and airy. "Just pre-wedding jitters. Promise I'll mellow out after the cake." Lies. All of it. But God, it felt good to wield them like weapons. As the city blurred past, monuments to forgotten heroes, the Lincoln Memorial staring down like a judge, the memories clawed back, the raid in Hawaii, agents swarming our cabana with warrants screaming my name, Jake's face crumpling as they cuffed me in front of him. "What the hell?" Reynolds, he'd roared at Dad, who stood there stone-faced, murmuring condolences like a priest at a graveside. Later, in that cell, I'd pieced it together from smuggled news clippings, Dad's shell company, funneled through my login, siphoning millions in black-budget tech to Beijing proxies. The feds had the logs, the IPs, all forged in his basement lair, where he'd taught me to code as a kid, calling it daddy-daughter time. I'd confessed to nothing, but they broke me anyway, waterboarding disguised as enhanced sessions, sleep deprivation until I saw Mom's face in the walls. My suicide was mercy from a guard who'd whispered, "He doesn't deserve your silence." The cathedral loomed, Gothic spires piercing the overcast sky like accusations. We stepped out to a gauntlet of press, Pentagon in bed snapping pics for the society pages. General's daughter weds hero pilot, already half-written in their notebooks. Dad flanked me up the aisle, his grip iron on my elbow, whispering, "Smile bigger.
Kiddo.
This is your moment."
Mine. All right.
Vows exchanged in a haze of stained glass light. Jake's "I do" sealing us in holy writ while I scanned the pews for weak points. Uncle Vic, Dad's oily quartermaster buddy, fidgeting with his phone. Aunt Lydia, Mom's sister, eyes red-rimmed from years of family loyalty that kept her silent. The reception waited at the Hay Adams, a ballroom dripping in crystal and clout, where the real show would drop. But first, the quiet war. As Jake twirled me on the dance floor to some Sinatra croon, I slipped my hand into his pocket, palming the USB drive I'd accidentally dropped during the limo ride. It held the seeds, mirrored server files, timestamps proving Dad's logins, emails to his Beijing handler signed Eagle's Shadow. I'd planted it last night, post-rehearsal, using the hotel's service elevator to ghost his estate, same route I'd taken in my old life to borrow his scotch. He hadn't changed the codes. Arrogance is a hell of a blind spot.
Now. It was in play.
Lena's team was cracking it live, cross-referencing with leaked NSA chatter. By toast time, the dominoes would fall. Dad's speech came after the salad course. The room hushed under chandeliers that cost more than my old salary. He stood, glass raised, that avuncular grin masking the viper beneath. Folks, raise one for Maya, my wild card, my heart. She was always the dreamer in a house of soldiers, chasing stories while I chased storms.
But today?
She's hitched her star to Jake here, a man who knows duty like I taught it. Chuckles rippled, he paused, eyes locking on mine with mock affection. Just kidding.
Son.
Maya's the soft one, remembers every birthday, cries at dog commercials. In this family, that's her superpower. Laughter swelled, warm and cutting, the kind that brands you the weak link in a room full of alphas. Jake tensed beside me, but I smiled, sweet as pie, because I knew what came next. His toast was the setup, mine would be the spike. The band struck up a interlude, guests milling for refills, and that's when my phone buzzed, burner, silent mode. Lena, files gold. Broadcasting to Jagan 5. Hold the line. Adrenaline surged, hot and electric. I excused myself to the powder room, locking the door and dialing the one contact I'd burned into my brain, Colonel Reyes,
Jake C.O.,
the straight arrow who'd testified against me in the old trial, convinced by Dad's forged evidence. Maya Reynolds, I said when he picked up, voice steady as rebar. Don't hang up. You owe me 3 minutes. Silence. Then a wary. This line's not secure.
Good.
Mine isn't either. Check your encrypted drop, now. I'd seeded it hours ago. A teaser file. Audio of Dad's handler call. Timestamp to the F-35 breach. What the Reynolds? If this is a play, it's not. It's truth. And if you want the full drop before Beijing gets another squadron specs, salute me at the head table. Literally.
Click.
Back in the ballroom, the air hummed thicker, whispers threading like smoke. Dad caught my eye from across the room, brow furrowed. Had he sensed the shift? I slid into my seat, Jake murmuring, "You good," before the best man wrapped his mic time. Then Rhea stood, unscripted, glass in hand. A word for the bride. Heads turned, Dad's smile tightened. Reyes cleared his throat, eyes on me like I was a live wire. Maya Reynolds Harlan. In a world of shadows, some lights burn brighter. For services rendered, classified, but known to those who matter, we salute you. And then it happened, one by one. The Air Force tables rose, 20, 30 officers in crisp blues, hands snapping to brows in perfect unison. The room froze, forks midway to mouths, as the salute rippled outward. a wave of respect crashing over the linen. Jake's jaw dropped. My bridesmaids gaped. And Dad, oh God, Dad. His champagne flute slipped, shattering on the parquet, his face collapsing from smug patriarch to cornered rat in the span of a heartbeat. "What the hell is this?" he hissed, half rising. But Reyes was already on him, murmuring low, "General." A word outside.
Now.
Chaos bloomed soft at first, murmurs, glances, then sharp, as feds in plain clothes materialized from the perimeter, badges glinting like judgment. "Harlan Reynolds, you're under," Dad bolted, chair toppling, but the doors were blocked, his friends melting into the woodwork like the cowards they were. I stood, heart pounding not with fear, but a savage joy, as agents swarmed him, cuffs clicking home. "Maya, what have you done?" he roared, twisting toward me, eyes wild with betrayal's mirror. "You little collateral." "Dad," I cut in, voice carrying clear over the din. "Your words. Remember?" The room erupted, gasps, flashes from hidden cams, but the salutes held, a wall of blue shielding me as they dragged him out, his empire crumbling in real time. Jake pulled me close amid the frenzy, his whisper fierce. "Babe, explain."
Now.
But explanations could wait. The twist was just uncoiling. As the doors slammed on Dad's curses, my phone lit up again. "Lena, one more file. Your mother's not gone. She's alive." He faked it. The world tilted. "Mom, drugged, hidden in that ward," a bargaining chip he'd dangled over me all along. The revenge I'd planned? It was child's play. The real war started now. The aftermath of the reception played out like a bad spy thriller montage, sirens wailing down 16th Street. Dad's limo peeling out empty because no driver sticks around for treason.
And me?
Maya Reynolds Harlan, freshly minted Mrs. If the officiant hadn't bailed mid-vows, huddled in a commandeered coat room with Jake and a half-dozen stone-faced JAG officers. The Air Force salute had bought me cover. But the feds weren't buying fairy tales. "Start talking?" "Yes." Reynolds, barked Special Agent Torres, a wiry Latina with a stare that could strip paint, her notebook flipped open like a gauntlet. Jake's arm was a steel band around my shoulders, his breath ragged. "Maya, what the fuck? Services rendered? You gonna clue me in before I have to lawyer up too?" I met his eyes, those eyes I'd memorized in a cell, when his letters were the only light, and whispered, "Trust me." 5 minutes. Then, to Torres, "Not here. Secure line. My office. My old office. Pentagon basement. The one Dad had gifted me as a wedding present. Irony's a cruel mistress." We convoyed to the E-ring under escort, the Potomac a black ribbon under sodium lights, DC's underbelly pulsing with secrets. Jake drove, knuckles white on the wheel of his Mustang, our just-in-case ride, because even then, I'd sensed the noose. "Talk," he growled at a red light. "That USB? It's Dad's digital suicide note. Emails. Transfers. The works." He sold out the program, 35 upgrades to the highest bidder. Used my clearances to make it look like I did it. Jake's jaw clenched, gears turning. And the salute? Reyes. Insurance. I fed him a sample this morning. Enough to verify. Not enough to trace back until the toast. He exhaled sharp. A pilot banking through turbulence. "Jesus. Maya. You played God with my CO."
Had to. In the
dream I had, call it a nightmare, he got you killed too. Retaliation strike. I couldn't let it happen again. Lie wrapped in truth. The death was mine. But the ripple?
yeah,
It would have drowned us all. The Pentagon swallowed us whole. Corridors echoing with after-hours ghosts, janitors mopping marble, analysts burning midnight oil on threats that paled next to family. My office was a time capsule. Oak desks scarred from Dad's lessons, framed photo of us at Annapolis. Me 16 and beaming while he loomed like a monument. Torres sealed the door with her team, laptops blooming like poisonous flowers. I slotted the USB, projecting the files onto the wall, timelines syncing Dad's trips to Shanghai with data dumps. Voice mods of his handler calls, Eagle's shadow confirms payload, and the kicker, bank wires to a Cayman account in Mom's maiden name. She knew, I said flatly, as the room absorbed the grid. Asked questions, so he buried her alive in that clinic upstate. Faked the OD to shut her up. Torres whistled low. This is airtight. Reynolds. But how'd you get it? You saying your old man's been playing double agent under your nose? I leaned back, the chair creaking like bones. Under my everything. Groomed me for the fall. But I woke up. Knowing. Call it intuition on steroids. Interrogation flipped to alliance by dawn. Coffee IVs dripping as they grilled details. Jake paced, piecing his own puzzle. How Dad had vouched for my security clearance. Fast-tracking it post-college because family sticks together. That son of a bitch, he muttered, slamming a fist into the vending machine for Snickers that didn't dispense. He cornered you at the rehearsal. Keep her in line. Harlan. Or she's out. I thought it was father-in-law hazing. My laugh was bitter soda. Classic Hawk. Always the mentor. Never the monster. But the real gut punch waited in the sublevels. Where text decrypted the final layer, Mom's ward wasn't a grave, it was a black site adjunct in rural Pennsylvania. A rehab for assets too valuable to waste. Dad had stashed her there after she stumbled on his first deal, a drone prototype skimmed to Tehran in 18. Drugged compliant, memory wiped quarterly, but alive. The files had coordinates. Access codes. We move at 0600, Torres declared, holstering her sidearm. Extraction first. Then we flip Reynolds for the network.
me,
I was already geared. Tack vest over my rumpled bridesmaid's dress, silk and Kevlar. The new couture. The drive to Pine Hollow was a blur of backroads and burner chatter. Dawn bleeding pink over cornfields that hid worse than crows. Jake rode shotgun. Reyes in the rear with a squad of MPs. Their AR-15s oiled whispers. You sure about this? Jake asked, hand-finding mine across the console. Storming a Fed front for your mom? If this goes south, it won't. I remember the layout from visits. Lies again in my old life. I'd driven there once. Post-suicide, to scatter what I thought were ashes. Dad's gift. Closure for the daughter he'd lost.
now.
It was Redemption's address. The facility squatted like a bunker under ivy. Chain link humming with voltage. A sign reading Evergreen Wellness Center, mocking the razor wire. Torres's team breached quiet, flashbangs muffled. Guards zip-tied before they blinked. We cleared halls reeking of bleach and despair, vacant eyes in paper gowns. Echoes of screams long medicated silent. Mom's room was at the end. A sterile cube with a Bible on the nightstand and bars disguised as blinds. She sat by the window, frail as tissue, gray streaks in her auburn like fault lines. Harlan, she murmured as the door cracked. then froze as I knelt, tears hot.
Mom.
It's Maya. We're getting you out. Her eyes sharpened, fragments piercing the fog, recognition, then horror. The deals. He said you'd understand. Collateral. The word again. A curse. Jake helped her stand, her frame bird-boned under the scrubs, while Reyes covered the exfil. But as we hit the corridor, alarms wailed, Dad's failsafe, a panic button in her bracelet.
Go.
Torres yelled, but I ripped it free, flinging it into a grate. Gunfire popped distant, a guard detail, loyal to the ghost. We piled into vans, tires screaming gravel. Mom wedged between me and Jake, her hand clutching mine like a lifeline. I saw you die, she whispered, voice cracking. In the papers. My fault. No, I said, fierce. The road unspooling like fate rewound.
His.
But we're ending it. Back at Langley. Debrief stretched into noon. Mom sedated gentle undermedics. Her testimony a skeleton key. Dates. Names. The works. Dad's network unraveled live. Arrests in 3 time zones. Headlines screaming, Pentagon traitor nabbed at daughter's nuptials. But the twist gnawed. In her ramblings, Mom mentioned a silent partner, someone higher, who'd greenlit the whole op. Not just Harlan, she'd gasped. The eagle flies with 2 wings. Dad was the fall guy too? Or worse, a cog in a machine that ate its own. By evening, the safe house in Bethesda hummed with brass, Joint Chiefs on video, promising medals and memoirs. But their eyes said damage control. Jake and I crashed in the guest room.
Wedding untilbereitet.
Cake uneaten. Marry me proper tomorrow, he murmured, tracing my knuckles scarred from cuffs that hadn't happened yet. I nodded, throat tight. Vegas.
No bras. No bullshit.
But sleep dodged me. Ghosts circling, Dad in holding, raging at mirrors, and the shadow partner, whoever pulled his strings. Revenge tasted sweet, but incomplete, like a kill shot that grazed. Morning brought Lena, slipping in with a laptop and a smirk. Your bird's not done flying? Maya. That partner? It's Whitaker. National Security Advisor. Dad's old Annapolis roomie. Son of a bitch. The general I'd toasted at the rehearsal. The one who'd clapped Dad on the back and eyed me like fresh meat. Twist upon twist, the betrayal ran bone deep. A cancer in the Republic's gut. I geared up again. This time for the Lion's Den, Whitaker's Georgetown brownstone. A consult disguised as tea. Jake protested, let the feds, but I shut him down. This is personal. He watched me break. Dusk fell bloody as we rolled up. Me and civvies. Wire hidden under a blouse that smelled of yesterday's champagne. Whitaker answered himself. Silk robe over paunch. That professorial smile curdling when he saw me. Maya.
Dear.
Heard about your father. Tragic. I stepped inside.
Door clicking doom.
Cut the eulogy. Uncle Walt. Mom's singing like a canary. Your cue to confess or crumble. His eyes narrowed. Hand twitching for a desk drawer, panic button. No doubt.
Bold. Girl.
But Harlan was the weak link. I just
Advised. Advised.
the word for laundering treason through think tanks and backroom deals. We danced that verbal tango, him probing for leverage, me dropping file bombs from Lena's feed until he cracked, sweat beading on his brow like dew on a grave. It was for the greater good, he wheezed. collapsing into leather. China's rising. We needed parity. Your father volunteered you as the veil. Volunteered. The lie that snapped something primal. I leaned in. Voice venom. Greater good? You dosed my mother. Framed your goddaughter. Sold out boys like Jake to get rich quiet. Smile for the wire. Feds breached on cue. Whitaker's empire folding like a bad hand. But as they cuffed him, he spat the final barb. You'll regret this. Maya. The machine doesn't forget. Regret? I'd tasted it in blood.
Now?
I spat back. Vegas hit like a fever dream 2 days post-bust. The strip of neon artery pumping sins under a sky bruised purple by jet contrails. Jake and I said vows in a drive-through chapel, Elvis officiating via hologram. Rings from a pawn shop that promised eternal bling for $50.
No Reynolds remnants.
No brass salutes, just us. Raw and real. His blues swapped for jeans that hugged his thighs. My gown a thrift store lace number that whispered against casino wins. Mom watched from the safe house feed. Her smile fragile but fierce. IVs be damned. You look happy. Baby, she rasped over the line. Don't look back. Easy for her. The ghosts rode shotgun. Dad's mugshot splashed across CNN like a bad tattoo. Whitaker's arraignment trending with Tradergate. Lena's byline led the pack, from wedding vows to national reckoning. The bride who broke the deep state. Clickbait gold. But it painted me patriot, not the vengeful specter I was. Fine by me. Masks are multifunctional. Honeymoon was a red eye to Maui. Irony's encore. The same cabana now leased under Jake's name. Waves lapping like applause. We made love slow that first night. His hands mapping scars that time erased, cigarette burns from interrogators, whip marks from stress positions I'd hallucinated free. Tell me everything, he murmured after. Tangled in 800-thread Egyptian we'd smuggled from the hotel. So I did. The death. The rewind. The calculus of payback that weighed his life against Dad's lies. He listened stone still, then pulled me closer. You're a goddamn force. Maya Harlan. But next time, we face the monsters together.
Next time.
The phrase hung, because the machine Whitaker warned of didn't die with a perp walk. It metastasized. Tendrils in boardrooms and briefings, whispering that the Reynolds girl got lucky. But luck runs dry. Back stateside. The medals came fast, Distinguished Civilian Service. A rose garden ceremony where the president gripped my hand like a vice and muttered, Your old man was a fool, but you're the future. Photo ops with Jake's squadron. Backslaps from Reyes who now called me ma'am with a wink. Mom rehabbed in Bethesda. Therapists peeling back the drugs like onion skins. Her stories filling journals. Dad's first cheat in Nam. Skimming POW intel for kickbacks. How she'd covered for him until the drone deal broke her. I thought love was loyalty, she'd say. Eyes distant. Turns out it's a chain. We rebuilt slow, Sundays at the zoo. Her feeding giraffes while I snapped pics. Jake grilling ribs like normalcy was a recipe. But normalcy's a myth for the reborn. My nights sweated bulletins. Burner pings from Lena tracking copycats and new arms skim in Yemen. Echoes of Eagle's shadow. The first crack showed in October. A month post-chaos. When Uncle Vic, Dad's quartermaster ghost, washed up in my inbox. Not email, dead drop. A USB taped under a park bench in Rock Creek. Coordinates texted from a ghost number. For Maya, use it or burn it. I retrieved it solo. Jake on Overwatch from a coffee cart. Heart hammering as autumn leaves crunched underfoot like brittle bones. Files inside. Whitaker's Insurance, a ledger of enablers, senators,
CEOs.
a Veep shortlist, who'd greenlit the op for stability. My name? Redacted as Asset M, but the note screamed, groom for fall. Leverage via Harlan lineage. And the twist? Dad wasn't the architect. He was the hammer, swung by Vic, who'd puppeteered from logistic shadows, funneling gear to proxies while Dad took the heat. He thought it was his idea. Vic's cover note read, protect the family, burn the pawn. Your move, niece. Rage boiled fresh. But smarter now, no solo charges. I looped Torres, who looped the IG. A domino chain that toppled 3 in Congress by Thanksgiving. Headlines howling, treason web unravels, more fall in bride's shadow.
Big gusta.
But Lena traced him to a dive in Key West. Holed up with a go bag and a Glock. Extraction was surgical, feds posing as rum runners. Him cuffed on a pier as gulls wheeled judgment. Interrogation in Miami fed my remote feed. His bluster cracking under sodium lamps. Harlan was sloppy. He sneered at first. Then wilted. But you're the glitch. Woke up knowing? That's not human. Chills spidered. Had he glimpsed my reset? Call it divine. I replied cool. Screen between us. Confess. Or join the ledger.
He did.
Spilling names that reached Langley's C-suite. A purge that made Watergate look like a squabble. But controversy brewed in the wake. Op-eds branding me vigilante bride. Fox panels foaming about deep state witch hunts led by a jilted debutante. Protests outside the Pentagon. Signs screaming, Reynolds for president. Half joke. Half threat. Jake fielded the hate mail. His squadron circling wagons. But it wore. Death threats scrawled on our Alexandria row house. A brick through the window on Christmas Eve shattering Mom's nativity. We move, he said, packing boxes while I stared at shards. Somewhere quiet. Wyoming? Montana? I nodded. But quiet was quarantine. The machine hated loose ends. Spring brought the hearing, closed doors. Capitol Hill bunker, where I testified in a Navy suit. Voice steady as I laid out the web. Billions siphoned. Lives traded like stocks. Senators squirmed. One, Senator Hale. Ledger listed, leaning in with oily charm. Emmis. Harlan.
Your.
Insights are noted. But zealotry blinds. Your father was a patriot who erred. Patriot. The word I'd choked on in cuffs. I met his gaze. Error's what got him life. Senator.
Yours?
Let's see the vote. The gavel fell damning. Hale's committee dissolving in scandal. But the real gut shot waited in the lobby. A courier.
Professor.
Handing me a dossier sealed with wax. Old school spycraft. Inside, psych evals from my sessions, redacted notes on Asset M's delusions, claims temporal anomaly. They'd documented my breakdowns as madness. But the margins whispered doubt, timestamps off. My confessions laced with details no prisoner should know. And the sign-off. Recommend termination. Anomaly risks exposure. Dad's hand? Or the machine's? Paranoia looped. But proof came via Lena, a whistleblower in the psych ops wing. Feeding tapes of my suicide watch. I'd babbled timelines there. Begging for Jake. Naming Whitaker before the raids. They'd buried it. But not deep enough. Summer scorched D.C. Heat waves mirroring the fire in my veins. Mom strengthened, co-authoring with Lena a book, Shadows of the Eagle, that hit bestseller lists. Her voice the quiet thunder. We relocated to Bozeman, Montana, Jake's ranch posting. Wide skies and wolves howling freedom, but the pull lingered. Dad's appeal hit in August. A Hail Mary from Leavenworth, claiming duress from higher-ups. I flew back solo. Jake protesting via FaceTime. Don't engage. Maya. He's poison. But poison's what I brewed. Visitation room was plexiglass and despair. Dad gaunt in orange. Eyes hollowed but sharp. You win, he croaked through the speaker. Chains rattling. Broke the family. Happy. I leaned in, close as the barrier allowed. Family? You auctioned us. Mom's free.
Though.
Says hi. His flinch was symphony.
She was weak.
Like you were. Past tense. The barb hooked. Weak. I reset the board.
Dad.
You? Your checkmate's corpse. He lunged then. Fists on glass. Roaring obscenities as guards swarmed. Last words. The machine eats its heroes. Maya. You'll see. I left shaking, but empowered, his breakdown taped. Appeal fodder. Yet the dossier's shadow loomed. Anomalies like me didn't last. Fall brought the clincher. A deep fake vid circulating dark web. Me confessing to fabricating the files for fame. Counterintel traced it to ex-Whitaker aides. Desperate rats. We sued. Won. But the stain stuck. Conspiracy nuts picketing our ranch. Time traveler trader, teas for sale on Etsy. Jake laughed it off. Teaching me to shoot clays at dawn. His hands steadying mine. You're real to me, he'd say. That's enough. But was it? The reset's gift soured. Knowledge as curse. Every joy laced with what if. November elections swept clean. New admin vowing probes. But bureaucracy's a glacier. Mom called Thanksgiving. Voice strong. Forgive him. Maya. Not for him, for you. Forgiveness? A luxury for the unbroken. I demurred. Turkey drying as Jake carved stories of flyovers. But night fell heavy. Stars pricking Montana black. And I wondered if I could reset again.
Would I?
The machine ground on. New shadows rising. But this time, I had allies. Jake's wing. Lena's pen. Mom's truth. Payback wasn't a solo, it was a squadron. Winter clamped Bozeman in iron. Snowdrifts burying fences like forgotten sins. The Absarka Peak's looming judgment over our A-frame. Jake's posting kept him airborne half-weeks. F-16's screaming sorties over mock threats. While I freelanced intel consults, remote gigs for think tanks wary of my reputation. Mom visited New Year's. Her laugh echoing in the great room as we toasted with Montana moonshine. The fire crackling secrets. You're healing, she said. Clinking glasses. We both are. Healing. The word for scars that itched phantom. Dad rotted in Supermax. Appeals denied. Whitaker's trial a circus of plea deals that spared no one but the dead. Vic, Life Plus. Snitching for sunlight. The web frayed. But threads lingered, anonymous leaks hinting at Asset M protocols, psych ops manuals with my breakdowns as case study. Lena chased them. Her updates pinged weekly. They're scared of you. Maya. Anomalies don't compute. Spring thawed the lies slow. April rains washing gullies clean. Jake proposed a road trip, Yellowstone. No cells. Just thermals and bison, but I demurred. Citing a consult. Truth, a lead from an old psych whistleblower. A retired shrink named Dr. Ellis. Holed up in Missoula with regrets and redacted files. We met in a diner off I-90. Vinyl booth sticky with grease. His hands trembling over coffee black as his soul. You weren't mad, he whispered. sliding a thumb drive across Formica. Delusional? Maybe. But prescient.
Your.
Visions matched events precog.
Precog.
The word hung. Clinical for the scream I'd lived. The reset. I pressed. Voice low. He nodded. Eyes darting. Not the first. DARPA toyed with it. Psyche uploads. Temporal echoes in the aughts. Your father's ops skimmed the tech. Whitaker buried the subjects. You, glitch survivor.
Glitch.
Not curse, bug. The machine's Frankenstein. Jolted alive by Dad's greed. Revelation hit like altitude sickness. But I drove home steady. Drive burning holes in my pocket. Jake waited with stew and suspicion.
Spill.
Over bowls steaming sage. I laid it bare. Not just revenge. But resurrection. A DARPA ghost in my veins. He listened. Spoon still. Then set it down deliberate. So you're...
What?
Superhero origin. His grin cracked the ice. But eyes held storm. Jake. If it's two, shut up. We're in it. But no more solos. Pact sealed with a kiss tasting of venison and vows renewed. Summer bloomed bold. Us hiking Bridgers. Mom joining for wildflower hunts. Her journal published to acclaim. Unchained Eagle, a memoir that gutted the machine's myth. Controversy peaked at a DC.
Panel. Me moderating.
Protesters chanting fake bride. Outside. Inside. I fielded barbs from a heritage flak. MS. Harlan. You're whistleblowing. Heroic or hysterical. Women in intel often blur lines. The room tensed. Lena. In the front row. Live tweeting fire. I smiled slow. Mic steady. Hysterical? That's what they called Mom when she questioned the deals. Called me when I suicided. Funny how truth sounds crazy to crooks. Applause thundered. The flak folding. But post-panel.
Hotel, slik sedan.
Tinted windows shadowed my cab to the airport. Jake's jet met me in Billings. His voice crackling over headset. Got your 6. Dives clear. Fall's harvest was reckoning's reap. DARPA leaks. Courtesy Ellis. Exposed the program. Echo chamber. Temporal psyops on volunteers like me. Zapped back to avert threats or test breaks. Dad had volunteered me unwitting. Post-college internship that was really neural mapping. The glitch? My death's fury. A feedback loop that hurled me pre-fall. Hearings erupted. Senate floor ablaze. New laws banning echo tech. I testified, anonymized. Voice modulated. But the machine fought dirty smears in Politico. Harlan Eris. Prophet or paranoiac. Jake shielded. His promotion to major, a quiet fuck you to the brass. Winter circled back. Our first anniversary marked with rings recast, gold-mined Montana Fair. Mom hosted. Her laugh full now. A cabin in the Gallatin strung with lights. But dawn brought the call. Dad. Shanked in the yard. Inmate dispute. Official. Gang hit. Unofficial? Machine cleanup. Silencing the one loose tongue left. Grief hit odd not for the man. But the father he'd mimed. Bedtime stories of aces high masking the low blows. Jake held me through it, whispering, he can't touch us now. But the twist lingered. In his last letter, smuggled pre-strike. Dad scrawled, forgive the eagle.
Maya.
It flew too high. Ambition or apology. I'd never know. Spring 2024 dawn decision. Expand or extract. Jake's transfer loomed. Edwards AFB. Test pilot's heaven, but I pitched roots. Consult from here. Write the real story. He agreed. Eyes alight. Lena co-signed. Our book deal inked. Reset reckoning. My words. Her edge. Mom edited. Her insights the spine. Controversy? We courted it. Podcasts decrying feminist sci-fi, but sales soared.
Fans mailing salute Maya paches.
By summer's end, we hiked to Palisade Falls. Water roaring triumph. Jake's hand in mine. Happy ending, he teased. Mist beating our lashes. I paused. Echoes of blood and betrayal fading to river song.
For now.
The machine grinds eternal. But we jammed its gears. Family forged in fire. Truths too loud to bury. As eagles wheeled overhead, free and fierce, I saluted back. Payback complete? Hell no. But peace? That was the win. Epilogue whispered in starlight later. Mom's voice on speaker. You saved us. Baby.
Saved.
The word for glitches turned grace. In this life, I'd choose it again, messy. Mended.
Mine.